It's recap time. I bring you one more recap. Today I'll be explaining an adventure thriller movie called Mud, released in 2012. The film begins with two teenage Arkansas boys using a steamboat to travel to an offshore location. One of them, Ellis, leaves his house early in the morning when his parents are busy in an argument, while the latter, Neckbone, reconnects with him on the route. The duo reaches the island and finds a boat stuck on a tree. They discover that the boat is missing a motor and suspect third-party involvement. When they discover a loaf of bread inside the boat, the doubt becomes a certainty. Ellis and Neckbone leave the island in a hurry but take notice of footprints on the sand. Before they could arrive at any conclusion, Mud made his first appearance. He greets them with a cheeky smile and mentions the boat that they found on the tree. Mud presents a fair deal to the boys. He states that if they deliver him food and supplies, they can have the boat once he leaves the island. The boys take note of the deal and return to their home. Back at his father's place, Ellis helps his father deliver fish to the town. He also inquires about the conversation between him and his mother but gets no answer. When he meets with his friend Neck again, they discuss the offer. They decide to go back to Mud and help him with the food. Meanwhile, there's an introduction to Tom Blankenship, an old-timer loner present on the island. We find him shooting the eels in the river with a near-perfect aim. The boys reach back to the Mud with the supplies. They find him taking a nap as he climbs down the tree. Mud informs him that he is waiting for his girlfriend Juniper, whom he believes will meet him at the decided location. The boys hear about his girlfriend and his purpose and leave the scene. When the boys get back to town, we get to see Ellis's crush. Soon enough, a random person harasses his crush, and Ellis goes right after him. He delivers a punch in the face and knocks him down. This impresses her crush, who asks Ellis to contact her. Meanwhile, Ellis and Neck discover Juniper for the first time buying something from a mall. When Ellis returns to the island, he informs Mud that he has seen his girlfriend in the mall. Both Ellis and Mud share several pieces of advice on love, life, and marriage. This is when Ellis informs Mud that his parents might be getting a divorce. Mud states that he is sorry for that and offers him his sympathy. The next day, Ellis goes to the Walmart with his mom and finds out that the officials are on the lookout for Mud. He immediately returns to the island with Neck and informs Mud about the troopers. This is when Mud states that he is a fugitive from the law and that he shot a man before coming to this island. When Ellis confronts him about the complete story, the fugitive informs him that June-Pierre made a mistake by getting involved with the wrong guy. He adds that the guy used to beat her up and was responsible for her miscarriage. This led to Mud taking revenge for Juniper and eventually killing the guy, which is why he remains a fugitive and is still in trouble. The boys agree to help him reunite with his love. Mud asks them to get the things required for the boat to start functioning, while also getting in contact with Tom, the old-time assassin. Ellis gets in touch with Tom, who greets him rather rudely. The loner man gets to know Mud and asks the boys to take him up to the fugitive. When Tom arrives on the island, he starts to shout at Mud for still chasing after Juniper. This is when Ellis confronts Mud and promises to help him with the plan. Mud hands over a letter to Ellis and asks him to carefully deliver it to Juniper. Meanwhile, Tom advises the boys to stay away from Mud and the things he has been involved with. The boys reach back into town and decide to deliver the letter to Juniper. When they discover Juniper, they find her being threatened by an unknown man. Ellis decides to interrupt, but gets a punch in return. When the man starts threatening Elias, Neckbone interferes and states that they are here to sell fish. The man leaves the room and Ellis secretly informs June-Pierre about Mud and his letter. This leaves Juniper happy, but also worrisome about the boys. Ellis returns to Mud with all the required equipment to get the boat running. Ellis informs Mud about the man beating Juniper in the room, who also punched him. This leaves Mud frustrated, and he later advises the boys to stay away from the man and his Rouge people. He informs them that the man is the brother of the person that he killed, and that they will come to look after him soon. The boys help Mud unload the equipment and try to bring down the boat from the tree. Ellis returns to meet his crush at a party and gets back to his home. This is when Tom asks him to meet at his residence. Tom tries to inquire about Mud and his escape status. Ellis learns more details about Mud as Tom belittles his romance with Juniper. This leaves Ellis infuriated as he leaves the scene. He goes back to Mud and repeats the conversation with Tom to him. The fugitive reveals that Tom has always been like that, a lone wolf. When the boys return to the town to inform Juniper about the escape plan, the same man who previously punched Ellis in the face returns and asks them about Mud. The boys deny any reference and move on from the place. The next day, when Ellis and Neckbone arrive to pick up Juniper, they find her gone. The duo comes to know that Juniper is present inside a bar and getting up close with another man. This leaves Ellis disappointed as he makes his way back to Mud. Ellis informs them about everything they saw in the bar with Mud. This leaves the fugitive infuriated and speechless. Mud only reiterates to them to return to their home. The next morning, Ellis gets confronted by his father about the missing motor that they gave to Mud. When things calm down, Ellis returns to Mud to inquire about the next course of action. Mud hands him a letter and asks him to deliver it to Juniper. Ellis complies and pays another visit to Juniper. This time around, he is disappointed in Juniper and conveys her discontent. However, when he watches her cry, it makes him sad. On his way back, he encounters his crush sitting in a car with someone else. As usual, Ellis gets into a fight, but his crush breaks it soon. She informs him that they have been on a single date and that he cannot expect much out of it. One thing leads to another, and when Ellis arrives back on the island, he confronts Mud for being a weak person. He mentions that he shouldn't have given up on Juniper. Moreover, when Ellis starts to leave the island, unfortunately he falls into the creek. This makes Neckbone nervous as he asks Mud for help. The fugitive risks everything for Ellis and takes him to the hospital. Despite knowing the consequences of exposing his identity, Mud is able to get to the hospital in time and save Ellis's life. However, he realizes that people around him have already seen his face, and that he needs to escape again. Before becoming a fugitive again, Mud visits Juniper for the last time. The two exchange farewells from a distance and bid each other adieu. The scene shifts back to Ellis's home. He wakes up from a deep sleep and finds his mother and father standing there. They comforted him and put Ellis back to sleep. Back at the island, Mud finally decides to get the boat into the water and get going. However, before moving on, he pays a secret visit to Ellis. The fugitive interacts with Ellis for the final time, and suddenly everything turns into a ruckus. The bad guys arrive at the scene and thus begin a round of back-to-back shooting. At first, a shot takes down the wall of Ellis's room and puts a hole inside it. Later on, when Ellis's father tries to shoot back, he realizes that there are too many men present on the riverfront. Mud puts Ellis in a safe spot and leaves the window. A shooter confronts him but eventually gets taken down by the old-time assassin Tom. The sharpshooter, who had previously refused to help Mud, finally decides to kill the bad guys. Mud is able to take down one of the goons along with his rifle. He notices that the bad people have taken Neckbone under their command. Eventually, the bad guys leave Neckbone out of this and wait for Mud to arrive in their target zone. Mud takes refuge in the living room but gets confronted by the shooters. He takes down one of the guys while hiding behind the sofa. The goons decide to take Mud out while driving him out to the front. Meanwhile, Tom continues to probe at his covert. In a last attempt, Mud dives into the river before getting shot. The leader of the goons takes aim at the water body and shoots an empty shot. Tom reloads his rifle and shoots him right at the spot. A horrified Ellis looks down into the water body and shouts for Mud. When the authorities arrive on the scene, they take the statement from Ellis. The next day, they dismantle the boathouse on the river, and Ellis has to return to his mother's apartment in the city. Neckbone also informs Ellis that they haven't found Mud's body as of yet. In the last few scenes, we find the old-timer Tom driving the steamboat on the river. This is when an injured Mud appears in the boat, thereby indicating that he is alive. The duo of Tom and Mud stare at the vast river, and the screen fades to black. The movie ends here. I hope you liked this movie recap. Please comment down on what you liked about this movie and what scene you liked, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.